It's 11:11. Make a wish. Mavs fans got theirs with Nico Harrison fired today, 9 months after the Luka Doncic trade. This could mean that finally the Dallas Mavericks have found some sanity and they're going to rebuild around Cooper Flagg. Could mean that they move off of Anthony Davis and the veterans on this team sooner than anticipated. The only pick that they own, first round pick that they really own, is their own for 2025. So it actually makes sense to tank this year and get as many assets for the veterans that they have on this team to try and maximize the value of that lottery pick that they're presumably going to get, as they're currently 3-8 at the bottom of the Western Conference, heading into the third week of the NBA season. Now, entering the season, I was higher on the Dallas Mavericks. I pegged them as a 500 team, maybe 45 wins. They have an All-NBA player in Anthony Davis, and they have good depth around him. 6 essentially starting level players, 4 solid role players, not including Kyrie, who had the potential to return and become a playoff spoiler late in the year. But it's for what it's worth, we also are defining starting level players as in NBA 2K terms as 80 plus overalls, whereas role players are going to be 75 plus overall. The Mavericks, they traded Luka Doncic in theory because of concerns about his conditioning, yet they replaced him with Anthony Davis, a player who struggles to stay on the court himself, having only played a possible 14 of a possible 60 games as a Dallas Maverick. That's 23% of his possible games in Dallas. Ironically, also, AD showed up to camp overweight, since he likewise wasn't able to work out due to his injuries, something that they went through with Luka Doncic, one of their primary criticisms and catalysts of this trade, apparently. The other critical flaw of this swap, of course, is that the entire team was made up of defensive role players built around Luka's elite creation. All of their key players were dependent on being set up, from the big men, their big money Hall of Fame shooting guard that they brought in, that they signed in Klay Thompson, to their lob threat centers in Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. AD himself is, in fact, a dependent offensive player, and while he wanted to play, he gave some lip service towards playing a more Sabonis type of role this year. I mean, that came nowhere close to playing out in his 5 games this year. This was always essentially a square peg into a round hole. And this is also compounded by AD's desires to play power forward, which kind of stems from he's not really a center defensively. He gets cooked defensively by dominant centers in the post. Here's looking at you, Nikola Jokic. But the issue with AD at power forward has always been he isn't good enough offensively there. He's not a good enough long-range shooter to really fit next to other centers. His post up, he likes to post up, and he's one of the best pick and roll finishers ever, but it's difficult to find a center that can play next to him as a result. They essentially need somebody like a Miles Turner or a Brook Lopez, and those guys are going to be, every team wants those guys. They're very far and few between. So some will also suggest that the Kyrie Irving injury, as it's the reason why the team has lacked a point guard this year, why their offense is so bad. But, I mean, Kyrie's not a point guard either. He averaged 4 assists in 36 minutes after the Luka trade. He is a scorer, not a playmaker, not the type of player who is going to find Klay Thompson coming off of screens, not the type of passer who's going to innately make the same reads on lobs for Gafford and Lively. He's, if anything, been a number 2 for most of his career, playing off of other great players in LeBron James, Kevin Durant, etc. Just about every stint he's been a number 1, like Cleveland pre-LeBron when they were a lottery team, and then Boston when they basically mutinied on him after a year. They've all gone poorly. He just doesn't make the players around him better, and that played out after the trade last year before he went down with the torn ACL. So, I mean, in short, even without the availability issues that both players have, the team was never really going to be more than the sum of its parts. Luka, on the other hand, turns trash into treasure, and neither AD or Kyrie can really elevate a team in this way. They're cogs in the machine, not an engine, especially at this stage of their careers where they're entering their mid 30s. Now, AD, he's signed for 3 years, 175 million, makes 54 million this year, has a player option for 63 in 27-28. He can still garner some draft picks. He's not like untradeable like a Joel Embiid. I'm sure the Sixers, for example, would sprint if they could salary dump Embiid on the Mavericks in exchange for AD, and they'll send the Dallas some draft compensation or whatever. Or they would love to give them Paul George, I'm sure, to play next to Embiid. Embiid actually being one of those floor stretching big men who probably could play next to AD. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm not really sure what the return for Kyrie would look like. He also has a 3-year deal, 118 million, much more palatable. 36.5 million this year. Of course, signed that contract knowing that he was going to be out for the season or most of the season this year. He also has what's going to be a player option for 42 million in 27-28. So because we don't, the trade deadline is in February, and he's been sort of targeting a return in March. March is when he got hurt last year, and if it's a year absence, that's essentially when he'd be coming back, but he wouldn't necessarily be full strength when he returns. So I don't know if teams should really be like knocking themselves over to acquire him at the deadline. But even in the preseason stuff, he was talking himself up like, oh, he's going to try to come back in like January or whatever. I mean, the way that the Mavericks season is going right now, that's basically kaput. Like there's no playoff run for him to come back to. It's really just a matter of whether or not he is going to be moving on from this team. So his health status leading up to the trade deadline is going to be an intriguing subplot, because maybe there is a team out there that would take a chance on him. Otherwise, I imagine most inquiries are going to take place during the offseason. These two guys are the tent poles of what this team was supposed to be. Now with Nico gone, Cooper Flagg is clearly the future of the Dallas Mavericks and the player that they're going to be moving around, moving forward. Cooper, for what it's worth, and I'm gonna break down some of the overall ratings now that I have for these guys in my roster versus what they are in the 2K Sports roster. I've got him at an 81 overall, which is -2 from where I had him at the start of the season, but also +1 from where 2K's got him at. He came in with Rookie of the Year expectations, has been somewhat of a disappointment thus far. That might be more about other rookies in the class playing well, like VJ Edgecombe on Philadelphia has been a lot better than expected, and also the Sixers themselves have been a lot better than expected, so that like doubles, the emphasis on that. But otherwise, Flagg is the youngest player in the NBA. He's still only 18. He has the brightest future out of anybody that was drafted. And he had a career-high 26 points in his last game, tied LeBron's record as the youngest player in league history with 25 points in a game. The team, the Mavericks, started him out of position due to the roster hole that Nico Harrison built them into. His production so far has been much better at his natural position since they abandoned the point guard experiment. In 4 games at small forward, he's averaging 17.5 points per game, 7.8 rebounds, 3.5 assists, 2 steals, a block in 33 minutes per game. He's shooting 48% from the field, 19% from 3, and 73% from the free throw line. 7 games at point guard, comparatively, 13.5 points per game, so 4 points less. 6.3 rebounds, so a rebound and a half less. 2 assists per game, so half as many assists. 0.9 steals per game, so half as many steals. 0.4 blocks per game, half as many blocks, in the same 33 minutes per game. So he was nowhere near as effective playing out of position. They essentially were kneecapping themselves by playing him there. And I guess I should also mention his shooting line: 39% from the field, 9 worse uh, than as a small forward. 31% from three, small sample, whatever. He's mid 20s on the year, and the three ball is not going to be a major strength of his. And he was 100% from the free throw line. Again, small sample. Obviously, that wasn't going to carry over for the rest of the year. But I mean, the field goal percentage is really the big takeaway. Is 39%. You know, he's a guy who you want to be finishing plays on the break rather than initiating them for other guys, especially since he's kind of limited in the half court. Those are things that he's going to have to work on. He's only 18 years old, so he's not that polished of a half court scorer at his age, but neither was LeBron. LeBron, of course, was able to get out on the break quite a bit as you know, in his rookie season and for the rest of his career. But you know, his rookie season, he only shot like 40% from the field himself coming out of high school. He didn't get really good until his like second season. So, I mean, Flag's probably never going to be the offensive megastar that Luka was. He's not going to be able to fill those shoes, clearly. But he's probably a better defensive player today at 18 than Luka has been or will ever be in his career. So they do have that going for him. And that was kind of, I wouldn't say the theory of the Dallas Mavericks, is they wanted to have a solid defensive team. Obviously, they lucked completely into Cooper Flag. But that was like the theory of this team in the preseason, was that like AD, Flag, Lively, Washington, like they had the core of like a solid defensive team, but they haven't had a lot of those guys available, and they've also had some disappointing vets who ended up getting demoted from the starting lineup. So we talked about Cooper Flag, who's probably the best player on this team right now, while everybody's sidelined. Let's talk about D'Angelo Russell, who was the player who Cooper Flag was starting for, and then he ended up starting. He re-entered the starting lineup when that experiment flopped, and he's actually since lost his starting job again. He was signed to a 1+1 for $5.5 million. Has a player option for next year at $6 million. He's been hugely disappointing this year. It's almost a given that he's going to end up exercising that $6 million option unless he has a huge turnaround, maybe with another team. I've got him at 77 overall, which is -3 from where he started my season at, and -1 from where 2K's got him at right now. Dallas, you know, what should have been a red flag during the preseason was that they were also using Ryan Nembhard in the rotation, and they even like were using him in like those first 3 games. He was actually part of the rotation. That maybe should have been an indicator that something was just like off with D'Angelo Russell, and that he was having either he's not healthy, or just like the drop off for him as his skills and athleticism wise is just like that major that they knew, and that's why they wanted to kind of protect him. He started 3 games after the Flag experiment. He averaged 18 points, 8 points, and 3 assists in limited minutes. He shot a career low 49% true shooting on the year, 37% from the field, 28% from three, only 71% from the free throw line. All of those are career lows. He shot the three poorly last year at 31%. And that was after a career-high 41.5% in 2024. So it seems like that was an aberration. He shot the ball pretty well for like a 2-year period. Oops, that's Klay Thompson. Let's go on to career stats. Yeah, so 42 and then 40% in 2 years, the hybrid year with the Timberwolves and Lakers. And then even this year with the Wolves, that was like at the start of like Ant's career. He was really solid for like these 3 years. And then really tailed off last year with the Lakers, and then ended up getting dumped to the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets, coincidentally, are the only team in the league that has had worse point guard play than the Dallas Mavericks. Perhaps maybe not a coincidence that D'Angelo Russell came from the Nets, and that they had the first look at him to say, you know, we're better off just drafting 5 guys, you know, the 3 first-round picks that don't know how to play. Like rather than bring back Russell as like a steadying veteran, presence, they were like, we're good. You can have him. So D'Lo was expected to come in and be a steadying force for the Mavericks with Kyrie out, but it just did not play out that way at all. He was expected essentially to come in and be like a top 35 to 40 point guard, just a stopgap who was going to hold things down until the trade deadline or until they acquired somebody else. He's played more like a point guard in like the 50 to 55 range, like barely clinging to the rotation. So maybe they're able to get something for him at the trade deadline, like a second round pick for a playoff team that needs a backup because somebody else got hurt. But I don't know. I wouldn't expect them to get much from Russell. Highly disappointing season for him, but at least they can get something for him. I don't know if they can get anything for Klay Thompson. 76 overall for him, -4 from the start of the season. The wheels did not just fall off on him, they are rolling down the hill behind him. 6.4 player efficiency rating, 42% true shooting on 21 usage. He's shooting 27% from 3 on high volume, 11 attempts per 36. He's only shooting 42% on 2s, and he doesn't get to the line. So he's basically useless inside of 15 feet, and he's barely useful. He's like actively hurting the team every time he shoots 3. He's averaging 7 points per game, half of the 14 that he averaged last season. By far his career low. He has 2 years and $34 million remaining on his contract. Absolutely negative trade value. So I don't know what they would have to give up picks that they don't even have to move off of him. He's looking like a probable off-season buyout candidate if they can't find someone to dump him, who they would probably buy him out as well if they. I don't know who's interested in Klay Thompson at this point. Probably looking at like veterans minimum deals whenever he shakes loose. I don't know if he'd be willing, if things would get so bad that he'd be willing to do that this season. But yeah, not really disappointing season for him. Let's go over the rest of the starters. Max Christie, he's stepped up, whereas we're in Klay's faltering. 79 overall for him, which is +3 from the 2K Sports roster, +1 from where I had him entering the year. 14 points per game in 8 starts this year, eventually taking over for Klay full time. 31 minutes per game in those starts, has a 64 true shooting percentage on the year because he's actually been able to hit his threes. 49 from the field, 45 from 3, 81 from the free throw line. He also plays good defense, which Klay very clearly does not post all the injuries and at 35. Christie's only 22, and he's on a bargain contract. 3 years, $25 million. Not $25 million per season, $25 million over 3 seasons. He's really the only saving grace of the Luka trade. He actually probably has the most trade value on the team by far, given like how small his contract is and that he fits in on just about any team. I wouldn't recommend the Mavericks trading him, but it is a consideration depending on how, whether or not they're going to prioritize picks, because by the time that the Mavericks do get good, Christie's probably going to be 25-ish, and he's going to be off of this contract. The other teams are kind of going through similar situations. Like, you can't extend him off of that number. He makes too little. So, like, the Bulls are essentially going through that with a Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu. The Mavs will eventually go through that with Christie as long as he keeps playing at this level. So maybe they do end up looking to trade him. But for now, he is one of the more promising players, one of the only promising players on the team. PJ Washington, he's been solid as well, 81 overall, +2 from where the 2K Sports roster has him at. He was a fantastic fit next to Luka, but he's down to 53% true shooting, and that's in part because his 3-point percentage is down to 26%. Was at 38% last year. The 32 is a hybrid of the Hornets Mavericks, but he was a lot better during the playoff run. So his 3 ball's fallen off in a big way. Is one of the role players who needs to be set up that I was alluding to. So Luka is gone. He's not shooting well. Not a huge surprise. And then ever since AD got acquired, there have been also major questions about where he fits on a theoretically healthy version of the Mavericks. His presence was as much a reason as anything as why the Mavs tried flag at point guard, because they were running Washington at the 3 next to AD. They wanted to keep Washington in the starting lineup because they feel like he's been a great soldier for the organization, and also he's going to lose a lot of his trade value if they do that. Now he signed an extension that is going to prevent him from being traded this season. He's not able to be traded until March 3rd, which is after the trade deadline, but he is very movable during the offseason. Currently, he's on a 5-year deal, $103 million. Really solid value. Makes $14 million this year, bumps that up to $20 million this year when the extension kicks in. He'll be four years, $89 million at that point. So there's no rush to trade him, given the lack of front court depth also that the team has. They also, he's young enough to that they can be patient and wait for the right deal. They don't need to necessarily run into anything. Lord knows they still need to get through the year. And of course, Washington knows his fair share of getting through seasons on losing teams, having played a lot of his career for the Charlotte Hornets. And then Derek Lively, let's break down the center position for these guys. 81 overall, which is +2 from where 2Ks got him at. He right now has been limited to only 3 games this year, 51 minutes. Availability has just been such a killer for Lively during his career. Only 94 of a possible 175 games during his career. 54% of possible games. We have not seen the rim protection that a Lively AD front line, what the thing that was Nico's grand vision. We just have not gotten to see it come together. Essentially has shades of Mitchell Robinson, who similarly was a promising young athletic shot blocker, but now he's just a part-time player himself. So it's starting to look like we might be heading that way with Lively. He's in the 3rd year of his rookie extension. He's extension eligible during the off season, but it's difficult to rely on him as a starter if he can't stay healthy. But he could have some upside on a contract in like the ballpark of what Onyeka Okongwu or Steven Adams signed. Probably more than Steven Adams because, again, he is young, but he's not looking at I don't think anybody's going to give him the same money that like Jalen Duren, Walker Kessler, or maybe even Mark Williams might command. We'll see what they get, all of them in restricted free agency during this offseason. Hey, they could always trade Lively to the Lakers pending a Lakers physical, as they did with Mark Williams on that note. But Daniel Gafford, 79 overall, -2 from last year, -1 from where 2Ks got him at. He's only played 6 games himself, had some health issues. Only 20 minutes per game out of Gafford this season. He's been on a minutes restriction. Overall, because he's been banged up, he has been less productive on the court. He is still in the same range as like PJ Washington. He's only 27, and he signed an extension. But unlike PJ, he is tradable. The Mavericks have said that they don't want to trade him, but that was also a couple days ago under a different regime and direction, presumably. So we'll see. I think he's, of all the players on the team, him and another guy are the most likely, I think, to be traded this season. But given the issues, the health issues that Lively's had, and AD is still here on the team, they still need a center. I do think that, if anything, trading AD should be the higher priority for the Mavericks, given that he's a ticking time bomb at 32 years old. They need to trade him like as soon as he gets healthy before he has a chance to get hurt again. Whereas Gafford, he's locked up for the next 4 years, $69 million. Solid value contract. They're going to have time. They don't need to rush into anything. And then rounding out the starting level players, quote unquote, Brandon Williams, 77 overall, which is +4 from where 2Ks got him at. He had 19 points in his first start of the year after they realized that D'Angelo Russell they were just wasting their time with him. He's played really well for the Mavericks since they acquired him. Like at the very least, he is a poor man's version of what they would get out of Kyrie Irving. He's great at drawing fouls, pretty good scorer, just a little undersized, but hey, they need offense. They need as much offense as they can get. That's really been a struggle for them. He's only on a minimum as well, not even like a guaranteed minimum. So he's going to stick the entire year. Maybe he'll figure in as like a backup for the team moving forward. But they clearly, among the list of things that they need to acquire, they're going to move on from Kyrie. They're going to move on from D'Angelo Russell. So they're in the market for their point guard of the future because it is clearly not Cooper Flagg. And then Najee Marshall. We're going to discuss all the rest of the rotation, a little sub-rotation, sub-starting level players. Najee Marshall's the best of those, and like Gafford is one of the two guys I consider most likely to be traded this year. 79 overall, that's +3 from where 2K's got him at. Really the only player who's going to have any type of trade value, I think. He makes only $9 million a year, 2 years, $18 million, so good contract. He's 28. Obviously they drafted over him with Flagg, which they weren't expecting to be doing when they originally signed him. He's a good driver, but a very limited 3-point shooter, kind of similar to like Jaime Jaquez with Miami. 31% 3-point shooter with the Pelicans in 4 years, and then only 27% in 2 years with Dallas. So I mean, especially in like the read and react system that the Grizzlies used last year and what the Heat are using last year, he would make a lot of sense. Just on teams that need that need somebody who's really good at driving the ball off that bench, reasonable 7th, 8th man for a lot of playoff teams. Something like the number 35 to 40th small forward in the league. Not a guy that you'd be thrilled if he was your starter, but he's still going to play like 24, 25 minutes a game for most teams. He would be an upgrade on a few teams like Chicago, who's right now playing Isaac Okoro, etc., etc. I'm not going to go through the list of teams that could use him. There are definitely a bunch. And then Dante Exum, he's another player. Like they signed him to kind of shore up the point guard spot as well, as he's a little bit of a combo guard. He hasn't been healthy, surprise, surprise, due to a knee injury. They stretched Omax Prosper to make room for him. Omax Prosper, of course, is healthy and playing for the Memphis Grizzlies, and they could certainly use him, given that their front court, of course, has also been banged up. But predictably, nothing out of Exum. Probably only going to play 20 games again. But he has a no trade clause because he re-signed on a minimum contract. So he's not even a guy that they can realistically package in a deal unless he signs off on it. He would lose his bird rights if he did. So I don't know if that's not necessarily something that he's going to be interested in. Maybe he ends up getting cut during the year so they could take a look at somebody else. Probably makes sense as like a buyout candidate, given that he's only on the 1-year minimum. And then Jaden Hardy has been really disappointing. Basically, his 2024 playoffs was a mirage completely. He has disappeared since the Max Christie acquisition, and this is before his extension even kicked in. He's right now in the first year of that. 3 years, $18 million, makes $6 million flat for the next 3 years. But he's not even playing for them. Maybe he can play into the rotation by the end of his contract, because Klay Thompson will eventually go away, and other players. But I mean, the way things look right now, he's owed $18 million, but he would barely get minimum offers on the open market. So he doesn't have any trade value. He's just dead salary right now. And then speaking of other dead salary, Caleb Martin. One of the trading Quentin Grimes for 30-year-old Caleb Martin has almost been just as bad as the Luka trade on principle. Grimes, of course, was a good young player, and Caleb Martin he's older, presumably he's a veteran. They were so dead set on being a playoff team, and I guess they anticipated that Quentin Grimes, they weren't going to be able to match him on his in restricted free agency. They thought they were going to lose him there. But Caleb Martin makes 3 years, $29 million. He makes $9 million this year. That's exactly what Quentin Grimes signed for with Philly when he took his qualifying offer. So they didn't really project the market well there. They could have just kept Grimes on the qualifying offer, and they'd be in a lot better position rather than picking up Martin, who he's completely dead money, like $30 million worth of dead money. 5.1 player efficiency rating this year, 39 true shooting percentage in 9 games with Dallas, 44% true shooting in 23 games since he was acquired. It's maybe not his fault, given his health. The Mavericks did have to. They did acquire a second-round pick or two because it was revealed after the trade. He got flagged medically. That he was kind of damaged goods coming in. But, similar to he's essentially similar to the other players that like D'Lo and Klay Thompson, where they're on these long-term deals and the bottom just completely fell out. He has negative trade value. They're not going to be able to get something for him without attaching picks, which they, again, don't even have right now. And then Dwight Powell, 73 overall for him, +1 from what 2K's got him at. He might as well have a no-trade clause because they probably wouldn't want to alienate Mavs fans. The only way he gets traded is, if they're getting back something really good and they need him for salary matching. He only makes $4 million this year, which is the last year of his deal. He's likely retiring at the end of the year. He's going to be 35, unless they want to Udonis Haslem him for a bit. But I mean, I guess they could. They're not planning for anything for the next couple of years, assuming they go the rebuild route. And then, I don't really have a ton to say about their two-way players. Moussa Cisse I haven't done the ratings for him or Miles Kelly. I did do one for Ryan Nembhard, but Cisse, actually he's closer into the rotation than Nembhard. He's actually playing ahead of Dwight Powell. It's worth. He could end up being like Moussa Diabate with the Hornets, who eventually and end up on a standard contract at some point, but they're not going to be running into that as they don't have an available roster spot until they move off of some of these guys after the trade deadline. So we'll revisit conversations on that later. They've also none of these guys have played more than 100 minutes either, so I'm not going to go crazy over them. Nembhard I did update a little bit just because he was in the rotation at the start of the year, and then he was playing in the preseason, but he showed some promise in the preseason, but at the end of the day, he does have a lot of limitations. Isn't good enough as a scorer. So he was more or less overmatched as soon as the game started counting. He can get spot minutes here and there, but he's a 49 true shooting percentage is identical to D'Angelo Russell. Likewise, is just going to be an offensive caretaker. So he wasn't giving the team anything that D'Angelo Russell wasn't. So he'll probably play more down the stretch again once they move off of some of these vets. And then Miles Kelly, I don't know a ton about. Essentially a 3-and-D guy. Who knows? They have a lot of guys on this roster that they need to churn through. Hope you guys liked the content of this video, this full team breakdown of the Dallas Mavericks. It's a new day in Dallas, and I'll be curious to see what changes the team decides to make moving forward. It'll be fun to check back on them throughout the year to see how some of the stuff I talked about in this video played out. I'm going to do the 2K recap. I've been doing my daily recaps every day this year. Haven't missed a day in the NBA season. We're now 3 weeks in, so be sure to check out those videos. I'll see you guys later tonight. Peace.